Now, Captain Waweru has taken his wife to court. And before Captain Waweru took his wife to court, people are saying, we want to listen to both sides of the story. We want both sides of the story. Now they are in court. Now the court will reveal who was the problem. Before they went to court, the husband was revealing how the wife had mistreated him. And the wife came to the media to say how the husband was mistreating her. And so we could not get the real side of the story. But now they are in court, we have a fair chance to listen to both sides and we will determine who was the problem. But I don't want us to dwell on these two and how they are in court. I want you to look at yourself. Now, will you ever find yourself in court? Some people think that they can never end up in court because they are very wise. You are not. You are not. You may find yourself in court, and you are the one who may take your spouse to court. And it's not because you are willing. It is because you two people cannot agree. And that is why I want us to learn one lesson, which is communication breakdown in marriages. And it starts long way before a court case is initiated. Now, I like speaking to young men who have this assumption that they are very wise, that they are still young, and they cannot make mistakes like Captain Waweru. Captain Waweru was also a young man, a brilliant young man. You know the days of Captain Waweru, a man who could learn how to fly an aeroplane. During those times, he was one of the young men who were considered to be very bright. So he was a bright student in school. He was a young, bright, wise man, just like you. And he thought he was making the right decision, only to end up at 65 and find that he made the wrong decision. Now, you may find yourself there. I'm not saying that you will, but you may also find yourself there. Now, before you reach there, when you are still 23, there's something you need to learn from Captain Waweru and from me about communication between couples. This is something you will ignore in your initial years because you think you love one another. And then you start ignoring proper communication between you two. You start focusing on very relevant things that you think are very important. For example, cheating. People think that cheating is the most important thing to be looked at in marriage, that it is the main thing that makes couples disagree. No. Communication is the reason a lot of couples disagree. It also has nothing to do with money, okay? Because some people think it's all about money. How many poor couples do you know that are married? How many people that have financial challenges? There are those who are poor, they don't have money, but we have this middle class. You understand, this middle class who earn 100 or 200,000 Kenya shillings every month, but they always have a car loan, they are always paying mortgage, they are paying this loan and that loan, and they always find themselves in financial problems, but they live like a lavish lifestyle. You may think they are living very well, but they have deep financial problems. Financial problems can sometimes contribute to a lot of problems in marriage, okay? But that is not the main thing. The main thing that you should learn when you are still a young man is communication. Communication. Do not ignore it. And I'm talking to 23-year-old young men, 24, 25, because that is the time your body is very active and you are looking for a girlfriend to marry, you see. And then you start ignoring red flags in terms of communication. This girl cannot talk to you very well. And then you think, let me just forgive her. As long as she's not cheating on me, as long as we can... No. That communication problem that you have when you are still young, it will come out later and it will mess you up big time. If you cannot agree when you are still young, when you are still a young couple, later on this thing will backfire on you. And I'm not saying that when you agree right now, it's a guarantee that you will agree later. No, I'm saying that start looking at communication early enough, because that is the reason a lot of you will disagree later. Couples are in court because they have disagreed on finances, not because money was not there or money was there. No, it is because they have disagreed on finances. Disagreement means there was communication breakdown. A lot of couples are in court because they disagreed on conjugal rights. It is not because conjugal rights was not there. No, it is because one partner withheld conjugal rights because he thought or she thought that the other partner was cheating. He thought or she thought, and not that they communicated. And so you can see they thought, they assumed, not that they communicated. They spoke among themselves about this issue of infidelity. You see, so it all comes down to communication breakdown. How can we agree with one another in this relationship? That is the question you don't ask yourself early. When you enter a relationship, young men like asking, is she beautiful? Does she have a good nyash? You see, does she smile well to me? Does she look nice? Is she smelling nice? Men, we look at physical attributes. Before we go to the internal aspects, we like looking at the external aspects. We want a lady who has a nice chest, a nice nyash. She needs to have a good skin. I hear a lot of men, they want light-skinned ladies. They want, you look at physical attributes and you say, she's okay. She's okay. And therefore, you start forgiving poor communication. Okay? Now, that poor communication that you are forgiving is the reason you will have a lot of problems. And for those who are Christians, I'm conscious of people who are not Christians and watching me, because I know a lot of people watch me. Some of you could be Buddhists, some of you could be atheists, some of you could have other religious affiliations, okay? But in our Christian faith, we have this verse that says that two cannot walk together unless they agree. I don't just want to read verbatim, but the Bible tells us that two people cannot walk together unless they agree. And what is agreement? Agreement is communication. You two people should be able to talk about issues, talking about your relationship, about your goals, about the kids you want to have, about your career prospects, about your feelings. You should be able to communicate with one another. And then you should agree. This is something that I ignored. I'm talking about something that I ignored and it backfired on me. And so initially, you have to talk, both of you, and agree so that you can walk together. The Bible says this, and I believe it because I have seen a lot of people succeed because they could just agree on many things. Two cannot work together unless they agree. And this is not just in marriage, even in politics. You find that our president, Ruto, cannot agree with the opposition in terms of communication. You see, they are accusing opposition of maybe spewing hatred of tribes. That's the accusation. And the opposition is accusing him of plunder of public resources. And so these two people cannot sit together. And so that the government can explain, this is where we are taking the money. And so that the opposition can explain, this is why we are focusing on tribe. That we have people of Murima, we have people of Murembe, So if these people cannot agree, they cannot work together. Okay? Even in politics, even in organizations. If the manager and the deputy manager cannot agree, that organization is going nowhere. And so we come down to a marriage. If a husband and a wife cannot agree, they are going nowhere. And now we descend from marriage, we come to a relationship. Now we are not in marriage there. We are still in a relationship, because I'm talking to young men. If you and your girlfriend cannot sit down and objectively analyze issues and agree, you are going nowhere. Even if you start going somewhere, you will have a lot of friction. And you find that you are staying together with a person with whom you cannot agree. And then you are there because of kids. You hear people saying, I'm just there because of my kids. It is one of the most painful things to be in. Don't find yourself there. Do not ever find yourself in a situation of saying, I am there because of my kids. I have been there myself, trying to hold on because of kids. Yet the marriage does not have proper communication. You try to ask this, she's very silent. You try to ask this, she's not responding. You see, that is the problem I had. By the way, let me talk to some people about one thing. This one, I want to be very vulnerable about my marriage, and I'm very sorry for revealing this. I married a very quiet woman. Very quiet. She's not this outspoken person. She's not this person who will burst in tantrums and start accusing me of things loudly. No. She's a very quiet person. And you know what I thought about myself? I am very outspoken. Me, I like talking. Even in my videos, you can see I talk a lot, okay? And so I say to myself, because I talk a lot, I would really want a woman who doesn't talk a lot. I want a woman who is quiet. I want a lady who is calm. A lady who is not speaking a lot. And therefore, I felt that my choice was right. And it was the right choice, because she's a very, very calm woman. By the way, the wife we parted ways with is a very calm lady. She never wants to engage in problems with anyone. Very quiet, very calm. Until there was a time when I said I had a marriage problem, and somebody was asking me, you are the one with the problem. Because your wife is very quiet. She never talks. You know, your wife never quarrels. Your wife is very quiet. You look like you are the one with the problem. And I tell them, I try to explain to them what was happening, and they say, no, you are the problem. Because we know your wife. She's very quiet. Now, this is what they did not understand. And the court looked at it. You know, a court is very objective. I don't like giving the public a chance to judge. Because when we are in court, and by the way, a family court is very different from the criminal court, or maybe a case involving breach of contract. Those cases that I said, there's a lot of injustice there. Judges can be bought, lawyers can be bought. Leave alone those ones. I'm talking about a family court. In most cases, a family court is very objective. The judge sits and then they listen to both sides of the story objectively. And the court listened to our both stories of ours, and then they established that there was indeed a problem. Now, what was the problem? The problem was communication. Because I try to ask something, and then with her silence, she will keep quiet. She will not respond. She will not tell me anything. Then I ask, you have done this. Why did you do it? Quiet. And you know, in my marriage, there was no violence. I cannot beat a woman. There was no gender-based violence in my marriage. The problem I had was communication. Communication. Sometimes I could even call the friends or maybe church members or even siblings, and then I ask them, we have a problem in this marriage, but there is no communication. You try to ask something, she's not responding, okay? And then I felt like we are not heading the same direction. And that is one of the main reasons, not the main. I know the public will say, now we want her side of the story. No. That one has gone. Now, that is one of the reasons that led to problems. Now, why am I bringing out this example? I'm bringing out this example to young men out there who have just entered relationships. They are now starting their relationship. And they think that being quiet is a very positive attribute, that being a very humble person who does not respond when asked something is a very important thing in a partner. It's a terrible thing. If your partner cannot answer you a question objectively without emotions, you are going to have a rough time in that relationship or marriage. And this one, I'm not just talking about women. I'm talking also about men. If you are a wife and your husband is this type who keeps quiet, have you paid school fees for the children? Why have you not paid rent? Now, where are we going tomorrow? Where will we worship tomorrow? Now, if you have that kind of a husband, you are going to face it rough. Because this man is not trying to put you on the same page with him. And if you cannot agree, you cannot walk the same path. Now, the Bible that says that two cannot walk together unless they agree does not mean that disagreements are the reason why people have problems. It is not just disagreements. Even when someone does not talk, it means you two people cannot agree with one another, okay? And another verse that I feel that is very relevant is this one that says that a man will leave his parents and the lady will leave her parents, and they both will unite and they will become one flesh. Now, do you know what one flesh means? One flesh means that these two people can sit down and have the same mind. You have the same mind, and having the same mind means you two people have to communicate. You come from different backgrounds, for God's sake. The wife comes from a different family. They have different traditions, different customs. Sometimes they have different culture, okay? And you come from a family that is way different from hers. Even patterns of communication are different. Now, for you two people to work together and for you two people to become one flesh, because the Bible says you two people should become one flesh, it means that you two people have to communicate. What is your culture? What is my culture? What are your traditions? What are our traditions? What type of food do you eat? What type of food do we eat? And you two people now have to keep communicating about this. So you find that the most important thing between two people is communication. It is not infidelity. It is not finances. It is not all these things people keep talking about. That as long as she's not cheating on me, or as long as he is not cheating on me, he's okay. No. As long as he's not communicating well to you, you are headed in a wrong direction. As long as this woman cannot listen, you are headed in a wrong direction. And in most cases, they say that wives should submit. And I don't like it when women think that submission is a very negative thing. Submission should be taken positively, because submission, sometimes I consider it to be able to listen, okay? To be able to listen when somebody is talking. Now, when a person starts talking, listen and then respond objectively in a kind tone. And that is what actually I faced a lot. And sometimes I feel like I should address this topic. I'm still gathering a lot of courage to speak about it, because a lot of young people don't understand that if you cannot communicate well with your spouse, with your girlfriend, you can't go to the future in peace. You see, there are marriages that we think they are okay, but the couple is facing a rough time because they cannot agree. But they are together for public image. Did you know that there are people who stay together in marriage because they want to please the public? They don't want to disappoint the public. That the public has known that these people love one another. And so, because they don't want to disappoint you, people who know them, that they are happy in marriage, they keep staying together, that we are happily married. They are happily married for you, for the public. But in the house, at night, when they have locked that house, there's a lot of commotion in that house. So they are married for the public. They are not married for themselves. There are a lot of couples who are together because of family expectations. They keep asking themselves, if I get out of this marriage, how will my siblings view me? How will my parents look at me? How will my aunties look at me? And so they stay in a marriage where there is a lot of problems due to communication issues, because they are trying to please other people. Now, for me, I tried to please. I tried to please the public, including the church, because you know the church is the one that united us. And so you are trying to make sure that you are in good books in the church, you are in good books in the people you know. But in the house, there is communication problem. You reach the house and you are asking your wife, have you done this? Now, look, listen to me. Why has this happened like this? And you know, I'm not trying to accuse her, but I'm saying exactly who she is. Even her friends know her. She's a quiet person, very calm. She likes peace. But again, in that peace, you find that she's... And this is what I keep telling people, that when you see a humble person, I want to address something. You know, there are people like us. They're sanguines, extroverts. You are married to a person who is quiet. And when you have problems, people say that the one who speaks a lot is the problem. Hey, the one who speaks a lot could be the one rushing up and down to solve issues that are arising in this marriage. They are trying. They could be the one reaching the house and asking, what problem do we have? How can we solve it? And you find that the partner who you consider to be humble, to be quiet, does not respond. They are asked a question, and then, you know, there are times even we went to a meeting, and then they are asking her, did you do this and this to him? How do you solve that kind of problem? So, as a young man, when you are starting your relationship, this video is for you. When you are starting your relationship and it is in the early stages, look at communication first. Is this lady able to talk to me very well? Now, if you are a lady, ask yourself, is this man able to talk to me objectively? You two people should sit together and say, we have 100 shillings. Now, how do we split this to make sure that it benefits both of us? Because we are one flesh. We want to agree so that we can walk together the same path. That is the problem that Captain Waweru and the wife had, because they cannot agree. And that is why I want you to learn from this couple today. If you cannot agree, you will end up wasting a lot of family resources. Now imagine Captain Waweru has to pay lawyers. Now imagine the wife has to pay lawyers. This money that you are paying lawyers, why can't you give your kids as inheritance? Just because you two people cannot sit down and agree. You two people cannot agree. Now the husband has to pay a lawyer. The wife has to pay a lawyer. Sometimes one of them may have even to bribe a judge. We know some of these courts, how they behave. They have to bribe a judge, okay? Now, you are using a lot of money in the corridors of justice. Why can't you two people withdraw the case, come to the table and say, we achieved this in this marriage, and therefore we want to split this among ourselves. And this money that we want to give lawyers, give even one of your children or grandchildren to start a business. But because they cannot agree, you see where it has ended up. It is a very expensive affair. And therefore, what I want to tell you as a young man, find somebody you can agree. If you cannot agree, you will end up wasting a lot of resources. Because first, you will not agree on how to use resources well. And then second, you may end up in court wasting a lot of time and money in court. Find a girlfriend you can talk to so that she can agree with you. Find a boyfriend that you can talk to so that he can agree with you. And if you two can agree, you can make a great couple and live a peaceful life and then utilize your resources well in your marriage. Thank you for listening to me. This is Gidia Kali, and we shall meet again in another video. Peace.